Well, Hugh, we have an extremely exciting time ahead with the Euros. Scotland have qualified, and it only happens to be in Germany, which you know so much about. Brilliant place to hold a football tournament. It's been a long time since they held a major tournament, 2006, I think. So, what are your thoughts?
Well, I would reckon if you were going to just, declare a place to hold the Euros, certainly in perpetuity, if that was what was going to happen, Germany would be the place you would pick, Heather. It's just a terrific football culture with a terrific infrastructure, great stadiums, and there really is no downside to it. It's just even those who have not been, the Tartan Army foot soldiers who have not been to Germany are really in for a treat. They will enjoy the experience.
And so many people won't have been to Germany. I've never been to Germany, actually. I've kind of been all
No,
over the world, but it's one place I've never been to. I'd love to go. What's the best thing about it in football terms?
because it's football friendly, Heather. It's as if we can find and we know how much the football culture is so strong in Scotland. But they've joined all the dots. There's there's the whole infrastructure for the transport is terrific. They've built stadiums that may be modern, but they retain the ability to create great atmosphere. The walk up to the stadiums is terrific because you've got this culture, to use that word again, of people setting up little small bars and wooden huts with pints of lager and currywurst and
They could paint the
whatever else.
stadiums. Is that the case?
Yeah, there's. I mean, I think the interesting thing will be to see what UEFA do with this. UEFA usually like to take the footfall around the stadium and make it their own. And FIFA do that in World Cups. And you may remember, like when the Euro game, the Ukraine Sweden game was playing at Hampden in June 2021. You couldn't just walk up to the stadium. There was security checks and all that around it. And UEFA like to do that. So they should be very careful about that because one of the great things about German football is standing outside a ground, outside a little wooden hut, with a guy, I don't drink it, but the guy pouring your mate a pint of lager, and me chomping into something, currywurst and chips or whatever, and it builds the atmosphere. And they're very fan friendly. You wouldn't want to argue with the sort of guys dressed in the Darth Vader outfits outside the grounds, sort of riot police. But generally, the police are quite tolerant of, shall we say, boisterous behaviour, maybe occasioned by unwise drinking. They're experienced in all that. Again, you wouldn't want to argue with them, but they're experienced. So it is it's a country that understands football. It's a country that loves football, and it's a country that wants to make football as fan friendly as possible.
So, what are the fans themselves like? I mean, will they be welcoming to Scotland, for example?
Yeah, I think they will. I mean, there's elements of there's a very strong ultra culture there, and the ultra culture is quite largely very benevolent. It's about maintaining heritage. It's about trying to resist the march of capitalism, as in the revision of Champions League and changing games for television, etc., etc. Now there are some groups of ultras that can get more than tasty. Dresden, for example, are known for a kind of violent cadre to their support, but generally not. You wouldn't want again to sort of antagonise the ultra culture in any way. I was in Seville for the semi-finals of the Europa League, and the Frankfurt Ultras clashed with West Ham, who were playing a Conference League game in the same week. So there is a propensity for some kind of violence, as there always is when masses of football fans. But I wouldn't imagine at the moment that'll be a terrific concern. I suppose when certainly for Scottish fans, but we know that when England go abroad, there's always an apprehension. There's always a tightening security. And I know that police forces will have been working on this for quite some time.
And I know that you were really fascinated by German football. Where did that fascination come from? Where did it all start? um, so the ice train sounds quite like the bullet train in Japan. Is
Yeah,
it the same idea?
yeah, that's the idea, and that's a really quick way. I mean, it could take you from Frankfurt to Dusseldorf, and I've done this, so it'll take you about 4 hours going through Koblenz and all that. The ice train will do it in an hour and 15 minutes. You know, it's very swift, very fast, very easy. We'll book them in advance. If it seems that UEFA are not going to extend this scheme to ice trains, get onto the website, and when you come up with it, book it now, because on the day it's expensive. It's like booking a flight on the day. On the day it could cost you, I know it did, once did for me because of a flight delay, it cost me £100 from Frankfurt to Dusseldorf on the train. But if you book in advance, it could cost you £30. So it's just a bit about planning the logistics of it.
And what about the kind of cash side of it elsewhere? How expensive is it around Dortmund?
It's German expensive, so it's like not much more expensive than Scotland, maybe just slightly more expensive than Scotland. Funnily enough, if you go up to Leipzig, which was in the old East Germany, the last time I was there, which would be, 2 years ago, coming up for 2 years ago, it was extraordinarily inexpensive. It was really, we walked towards the stadium and we got two terrific pizzas. My son got a bottle of beer, I got a bottle of water, and we got change out of £12. So, Leipzig at that time was very expensive. But what you'll find, of course, is once big tournaments come, the prices tend to go up, don't they?
Mm-hmm. I like the idea that there's the big kind of open area as well, so outside the stadium where fans can gather. I always think that's quite important. I've been at some big tournaments where they didn't really have that. I mean, I remember at the Women's World Cup in France in 2019, I kind of felt that was lacking a little bit, and that all the Scotland fans and the Tartan Army, we all gathered in a big park, and then I walked in with them towards the stadium before the game started, and that was a brilliant experience, other than it was absolutely teaming it down. Got absolutely soaked. Not the best way to start a World Cup match, but never mind. But I did find that was kind of lacking. And I like those kind of fan zones. I like the fact that you can gather just before you go in.
Well, this is what UEFA's got to be really careful about, Heather, because UEFA and FIFA, when they take over these tournaments, they become their tournaments, it becomes their stadium, it becomes their area of influence, and what they tend to do is they create barriers outside for security checks, etc., etc. But I would really strongly advise them. Yes, you've got to have that, but once you're inside, don't just make it just all the corporate sponsors. Try and keep a bit of this, the wooden huts with the guys pulling a pint of beer, the little stalls with again your currywurst, your bratwurst, try and keep it not as corporate and as orthodox or as stereotypical as it can be. Try and allow a little bit of local flavour in that. Otherwise, what will happen is fans will just go to the game for the game, which I think would be a pity, because one of the great things I find about going to German games is, literally faffing about the stadium for an hour and a half before it's open. I'm one of these guys that's in stadiums really early as well. I'm neurotic about going in early, but that's what I find. All the stadiums as well on the list, 10 on the list, all get terrific transport lists, links, and most, I would say, were walkable from the town centre.
Top tip for any fan heading to Dortmund then, if Scotland are going to be playing there?
I would say top tip, there's two top tips. You don't have to stay in Dortmund. Dortmund's not got many hotel beds. It'll be very expensive because the beds will be snapped up. Have a look at, places round about, little towns round about. Just check they've got a train station and stay there. Second tip is, if you're going to Dortmund, book the German Football Museum in advance. It's a terrific museum. It's even got It's got the inside the museum. It's got the World Cup, the Germany 206 World Cup bus, so you can sit on that and reflect on life in there. So that'd be my two big tips.
Great, great tips. Thanks so much, Hugh.